Hello everyone, I'm Rahul and I welcome you all to StudyIQ IS English. Today I have a very special guest, Ankit Singh sir with us. Ankit sir, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Rahul sir. How are you?
All good sir, and the feedback about your current daily current affairs analysis, it has been very nice. I'm receiving continuous messages from students. The in-depth coverage that you're doing, it's being very well received by the student fraternity. So congratulations to you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you. And not just me, but you have also pushed me to do better.
Sir, anything that
All credit goes to you.
anything sir that helps the student, we are always there for that. So sir, can you just very briefly tell our student a little bit about yourself?
So, sir, I've been in this industry for almost about 2 years now. And most of my dedication towards the students have been on the area of current affairs. I also specialize in economy. So, you'll see in most of my analysis, I always make sure to pick up articles from economy section.
So actually that is a very good thing sir, because economy, I even as a student and even now I feel that this is one segment which students find it tough. So when you're doing analysis for DC and economy both together, I think it's a win-win for the students.
I think so that the students find it tough, but it is also a sort of misconception because economy is something you can relate with common sense. So it's nothing really to fear about economy. What you have to do is just relate it with day to day examples and you'll be through the subject.
So, sir, can you just very briefly tell me this idea of yours about DCA, like what it is, how you came about it, like this should be the program, this would be my deliverables, like what goes in your mind?
See, the first thing anyone hears about UPSC preparation is current affairs is very important, right? And where to get current affairs from? Naturally, the newspapers. But then students, especially in their initial stages, they do not know what to read and what not to read in the newspaper. And even when they know what to read, they do not know how to read it. And initially, if you're starting to read newspapers, it takes hours and hours of your time daily, and which even students find it exhausting.
So, apart from this, like any student who is reading, you're saying that he would be devoting hours and hours of his time. But there's also a category of student who don't like to who don't like to read newspaper for whatsoever reason. It could be they are not habitual to it, or it could be that they find the language very tough. So, what is the solution about this issue?
So, solution from my side would be to follow YouTube. The most easily available content is on YouTube, and including ours, what we do is we spend hours and hours of our time, and with our experience, we know what kind of articles and among the content of that article, what portion of that article is important. So, what we try to do is within an hour or so, we try to prepare materials of important articles of the day and we try to present that to students so that instead of putting hours and hours daily on newspaper reading, they can get the same information in a video format.
So, sir, before I go in depth about how the newspaper should be read and what should be the right way of reading it, so in entirety, can I say that it is a very essential part of your preparation which you cannot skip in
Yes,
any way?
essentially, it is probably the most important part of the preparation because from current affairs, you're not just getting new information, you are also getting the context of the development, which helps you understand how this situation or the news has evolved over the years. And if you look at the exams, both prelims and mains, questions have not just appeared from that year itself, but also some information from previous years as well. So you need to understand not just the newer developments but also what has been in the picture from the past few times.
And sir, it said that like roughly like 2 years of current affairs suffices for the examination. Do you hold this theory true, or you think?
I think so, not 2 years. If 1.5 years is more than enough, otherwise UPSC can ask anything. Now you can't go back in time and read everything. So 1.5 years is something which will put you in a comfortable spot for any exam.
And so you have seen this journey, like you yourself teaching this DCA part. So how do you think that this current affairs and this examination UPSC, how they both of them have evolved over the time in the last 5 years?
See, earlier what I saw, the current affairs questions, they were quite straightforward, that what is Miyawaki plantation? The question was asked, what is, say, what, there are four different type of birds, and the question is asked, which of the following is not a bird? So these kind of straightforward questions earlier, which used to come, now we see that UPSC has become somewhat smarter, that they know students are preparing this, so they are making it a little bit more tricky, so as that they put static based information and they correlate it with current affairs in a form of a question.
And sir, these days, like you say, the current affairs part has become a bit tricky. Along with that, there is seen a confusion among students. Should they go with the Hindu, which is said to have a difficult language, or should prefer the Indian Express, which in a way people say that, or aspirants feel that it's more curated for UPSC examination. So, what would be your suggestion to the student between when it comes to choosing between the Hindu and Indian Express?
See, people living in Delhi, they won't have any problem in sourcing Hindu or the Indian Express.
Mhm.
Both are easily available. But I've heard that in some cities, the availability of Hindu is an issue, especially in northern areas. So, in that case, I feel both of these newspapers have an equal weightage, so that they do not miss out on important information. Suppose if, say, Hindu covered something today, you'll find the same article in the Indian Express in the following days. So you're not missing out on anything if you're following either one of these newspapers. So any one will do, depending upon the availability and depending upon the comfort level with the language written in the newspaper.
And you are covering both these newspapers
Yes, I
together.
cover Indian Express, Hindu, and on top of that, I also add PIB.
PIB. Okay, so that would make it very holistic. Like nothing
Yes,
would be left.
nothing more is left for UPSC instead of these three sources.
Okay, sir. Now, very quickly, sir, let's move towards the prelim section because it's very tricky section. If you don't qualify the prelims, then
Not able to write mains also.
not not able to write anything, sir.
Hmm.
So, sir, what is the relevance of newspaper from prelims perspective?
Newspaper from prelims perspective, first of all, it tells you what is happening around the world. And prelim syllabus, if you look, everything under the sun is covered in prelims, be it affairs related to India or somewhere else. So this puts you in a spot that you're not just relegated to the static part of the syllabus, rather you're covering contemporary developments from across the globe. So this was one information thing that we covered. Now, reading current affairs, especially the schemes of the government or say any notable development that had happened in India, it provides you with the information. And when you link that information with the static part of the syllabus, your preparation becomes complete. And this is where the question solving ability comes in as far as prelims is concerned. So, suppose if there is a three statement question and you know only one statement, and if you're able to recall any of the current development, you can easily eliminate the information out of those statements. So even if you don't know the questions completely, with some idea about the issue, with some idea about the issue, you can easily eliminate the question and you'll be in a better spot to solve that particular question.
And so, what is the trend these days? In the recent years, what has been the trend? Like current affairs continuing to hold a very valuable spot in the prelims examination?
Yes, they continue to hold very valuable spot, but the way with which the questions have been asked, they have somewhat been changed in recent times. That is, earlier the questions were quite straightforward. Now they have become applied. For example, in this year's prelims, there was a straightforward question on Women's Reservation Bill or the Constitutional Amendment Act 106. So this was very straightforward. Anybody who has covered the news will be almost able to complete this question without any problem. But then there was this issue of Miss Mahua Moitra's inquiry by Committee of Ethics of Lok Sabha. So in that question, the question came in prelims was not related to the political development. Rather, what they asked was the composition of Committee of Ethics, that who nominates the members, what is the composition, etc. So for that, you have to go somewhat into deeper level of information. That is not just read the newspaper, but also read the corresponding static part of the syllabus.
So, sir, this is where I would come in, and I'll say Committee of Ethics. I can read it from Lakshmikant also. Why I need to read newspaper? This I'm not saying there is a certain set of student who have this mentality that instead of covering things from newspaper, they have this perspective that they can cover it from various books or various static material based upon current, like those booklets or or other things which are in the market. So what is your opinion about this?
See, there are 30 odd committees in the parliament, and not every committee becomes important in a particular year. So, suppose if the newspaper cycle was following committee of ethics, so the probability of committee of ethics being asked in prelims becomes essential. So, you can be smart in a way that although you've covered your entire static syllabus, but after referring to newspaper, you know what is more important from the prelims part, and accordingly you revise that particular topic more instead of revising the entire thing.
Now, so the question comes, when I see the newspaper, I find everything important. This would be a typical experience problem to you. So, how to solve this problem?
See, what is important maybe for you and I is very different from what is important for, say, someone outside this industry. So there, the relevance of the newspaper strictly from the UPSC perspective becomes very important. That is, you do not have to cover political news, that BJP, what is BJP saying about Congress, or what is Congress saying about the third party. So you don't have to cover that. What you have to cover is that issue they're talking about. Suppose right now they're discussing the relevance of constitution, or whether Indian constitution should be amended quite frequently or not so frequently. So in that portion, what becomes important from UPSC perspective? How to amend the constitution. What are the various kind of majorities you require for different provisions of amendment of constitution. So that is how you tilt your preparation. You're not reading the political developments, you're not reading sports related news, rather you're reading something which is important from exams perspective.
And maybe I can say that a final solution to all these things should be what you bring to the table, daily
Yes,
current affairs and
exactly. What I bring to the table on YouTube videos is exactly how you're supposed to read the newspaper. That is, you take up important or relevant news stuff from that article, and then you utilize that knowledge in form of practice questions.
Uh, very fine, sir. Sir, one thing I found where newspaper is very helpful is your mains examination. I think it gives your preparation a next level boost. So, can you just point out the major benefits with respect to the GS part when it comes to newspaper reading?
So, sir, newspaper reading, I've found that the op-ed section of the newspaper, editorials, as well as the explained and text and context section, which are appearing in the Hindu and Indian Express, they are quite exhaustive when it comes to giving you the content of mains examination. For example, there was numerous articles on food inflation last year, right? And food inflation historically was never asked by UPSC before until this year's mains examination. So, not just the article was talking about food inflation, the various aspects of it, but it also gave you the reasons why India was witnessing food inflation. So, if you're reading that kind of information weekly or monthly basis, so you already know what kind of information you require for to be able to put up in a form of answers.
Now, sir, a problem which comes, which I like to bring to your notice, is that, for example, you're talking about food inflation. So, any article, not one single article would not be able to cover all of it. So, how should a student keep a track? Because there would be one article this week on food inflation, the next week, and it could be that even after 1 month there could be article on food inflation. So how can a normal student keep track of all these developments?
See, sir, quite simply, there are multiple materials available in the market. First, on a daily basis, there's a current affairs analysis video. So, in that video, what we mostly do is cover that day's newspaper. But also, many coaching industry players, they publish their monthly magazine. So, that monthly magazine consists of an exhaustive list of information which has been compiled over a period of 1 month. So, using those material, you can always fine tune your preparation. That is, first of all, people make notes of their daily newspaper reading or from the session they attend, and but they will have bits and pieces of information. So you compile all those information and then compare that information with the available monthly magazines in the market, and you will be able to realize whether those monthly magazines are more exhaustive or your own notes are more exhaustive.
And more so, sir, I think when you read the newspaper or when you study the analysis from the newspaper, it builds your thought process and it helps you to connect the dots, which simply by reading a monthly magazine, it does not help.
Yes, reading a newspaper also has a very good recall value. Suppose you're in a pressure situation like exam, the more likely is that you'll be able to call the information which appeared in the newspaper and not in some kind of a monthly magazine. So from that daily reading that you're underdoing, right? Suppose if I were to say you cover 60 kilometers at the end of every month, so it becomes tough, right? But what if I say to you that you have to cover 2 kilometers daily and in the end of the month you cover 60 kilometers? So what is more easier, right? Covering 2 kilometers every day. So this is what daily newspaper reading is all about. You can always refer to a current affairs magazine at the end of the month, but the kind of information that you'll get and you'll inculcate in your preparation is much better when it comes to daily newspaper reading.
That's very fine example, sir. And sir, next thing would be like when somebody is reading newspaper. So it also helps in quoting you lines directly from the newspaper that they become very good introduction and conclusion part, I suppose so, from the
Exactly.
newspaper.
Exactly. Because those people who are writing the newspaper articles, they have been experts of their field. So they know how to present any information to a general public. And this is exactly what anyone needs to do, even in their mains answer writing. That is, they have to provide not just the content, but also introduction and conclusion in their answers, which is where that kind of thought process that the people have in their articles becomes important. So once you're getting used to that kind of reading, you naturally incorporate all those elements into your own answer writing.
So, sir, if I would say a good reading, a person who reads good material, he's bound to or he's more likely to write a good article.
Exactly. What you write or what you read is what you write.
Right. So it always helps. And sir, is there any relevance of this newspaper reading for the optionals?
Yes. So my optional was political science and international relation. In that, the two subparts of the syllabus have immense importance as far as current affairs is concerned. And optional answer writing is very different from mains answer writing. There, you do not have to present what your own thought process is of the issue. Rather, you have to tell about what the scholars think about the issue. And this is where the important op-eds of the experts helps, because that not just provides you the information but also the kind of outlook that they see towards any particular issue. And this is exactly what you have to reproduce in your optional answer writing. And I think the same is applicable to most of the current affairs related optionals also.
And apart from that, I think part this second optional paper, the questions are framed around what is happening in the newspaper.
Exactly.
Or
Sometimes I've even seen that the quotes verbatim were picked up from experts and they were reproduced in a form of questions.
yes,
And you have to comment on that.
comment, describe,
And exactly,
and
if you've read
analyze.
that particular article, chances are you'll exactly reproduce it or in some form or the other, which will be very relevant and very contextual as far as the question is concerned.
And I think like it would be also very helpful for your essay.
Exactly, because reading, say, op-ed portions of these areas helps you understand what should be the structure of any article. And structure is what is the most crucial part of essay. That once you get the structure right, half of your work is done.
And this, when you keep on reading multiple editorials, multiple opinion articles, I think this automatically keeps on building. You just come to know like how to structure a essay properly.
Yes, essay is essentially the main kind of a question we ask now. What is critically analyze this issue? So essay is essentially the same question in 1200 words. So once you know how to present both pros and cons of any topic, which essentially is every op-ed article, so you know how to write a good essay.
And no doubt about that, in almost all popular media, social media, they show one scene. When a student goes to appear for his interview, have you read today's newspaper?
Yes, exactly. The most common question asked by the panelist, or sort of an ice-breaking question, is that have you read the newspaper? And then they build upon the information, or they build upon the questions based on that response by the candidate. So essentially, if you're going to any personality test or interview, you can expect any current developments, be it in the area you live, or the area you were born in, or the area you got educated.
And I think this is not just applicable for UPSC. This is same across everywhere.
Yes.
People are curious. Are you reading what is happening around you?
So that is the most beautiful aspect of the exam, that you are supposed to read about everything, and then that app- knowledge becomes your application in the examination part.
Now, sir, can I ask some different questions to you related to newspaper reading?
Yeah, sure, sir.
So, sir, all these things were very good things, very fine things. Now, I'm telling you what problem actually happens with the aspirants when they go about newspaper reading. Many of them become politicized, politically charged, emotionally charged when they see the newspaper. What is written is wrong. This should have been written in this way. This is a propaganda, not a newspaper article. So, how should an aspirant deal with these things so that he does not fall into this trap? Because you have to study polity from the newspaper, not politics, right? So, how should a student condition or frame himself so that he takes out only the relevant thing from the newspaper?
See, so the problem is anyone, any adult living in a democratic society like ours is naturally going to have any kind of political inclination, be it left or be it right. But when it comes to the UPSC preparation, what is more important, that you have to realize the kind of job you will be doing afterwards. That is, you're not expected to become politicians or political executives of the office, but rather you are expected to become a bureaucrat. And this is where the neutral perspective of any issue becomes important. So that any newspaper article, even if it is written by any politician in the country, you have to read it just for the purpose of getting information out of that. You do not have to agree with him, or you do not have to disagree with him. The basic work that anyone requires to do is only to take out the information and leave all the rhetorics aside. So this is one thing that you have to need to do. And also, quite simple, if you don't like anything written over there, just skip it. What's the worst that could happen? You can always read the same material elsewhere. So there's a need, essentially, you have to understand you're not going to become a politician, you're going to become a bureaucrat, and you have to start acting according to it, even in your preparation phase.
Now, so mother of all questions to you. Uh, Newspaper is not essentially written for UPSC. It has some different agenda.
Captive audience,
It
yes.
has some different audience, so it is writing for that. So if a student comes to you and says that newspaper is for a different segment, it is not for a UPSC aspirant, which is quite true. So what would be your counter to him?
I'll say that although newspaper caters to every section of Indian society, but it also caters to your need. That is, it is giving you information related to political developments, specifically related to constitution, election, etc. It is giving you information on banking interest rate, which is relevant from economy section. It is giving you information related to natural disasters, which is relevant from environment perspective. So all these kind of information, which is otherwise important for others also, but it is also important for aspirants. So what you're required to do is not go through all the pages of the newspaper, rather just go to relevant section, skip out the local news, go to relevant section and pick out important articles and read it. Everything else is just not relevant for the students.
And so coming to the conclusion part of our talk, so if you have to give out three tips to a student, the three master tips with respect to reading newspapers, so what would that be?
First master tip will be skip out politics. You're not going to become a politician after reading the newspaper. Second is that daily newspaper reading is very essential. You can't afford to skip out newspapers for an entire month thinking that you will make it up with from the monthly compilation. And third, if you're finding it difficult following the newspaper daily, there is always analysis like daily newspaper analysis that we do, that will help you provide the same amount of information in a span of 1 hour. And it will also help you understand what kind of information is important from UPSC's exam and what kind of information is not so much important. And also, try not to remember facts, rather go into the deeper context of those facts and understand why certain fact has emerged today, because that is what the questions is framed on, and that is what you're expected to write the answers in mains examination.
And I think, sir, this would also increase your recall value. Reading the
Exactly.
newspaper, you
Suppose you're not revising your newspaper, which is quite natural. But when a question appears on the same topic, say 2 to 3 months from now, you'll be able to recall that exact information within a matter of few seconds. So that recall factor is highest when it comes to reading the newspapers on your own rather than reading it from some other sources like monthly compilations.
So, sir, that's very nicely put. I think this session of ours is going to help many aspirants. And also, like through this talk of ours, many aspirants would come to know about the DCA program that you carry out. Sir, at what time it comes?
It comes daily morning at 10 a.m. live.
Okay, it's very consistent, like, or are there
No, no,
any break?
exactly at 10 a.m. without fail.
And just to summarize, what amount of efforts you put in for that? At what time you get up, sir?
Don't ask that.
Not in
4 a.m. in the morning.
4 a.m. in the morning. So I think if sir is making this much of efforts that he is getting up for each and every one of you at 4 a.m., I think you can learn a great deal from DCA section of Ankit Singh sir, and that would be very helpful for your examination. And sir, thanks a lot for all of your insights.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
So this was Ankit sir with us. I hope this will help you not just in your UPSC preparation, but the tips that you'll get it from here will also help you elsewhere in life. So this was Rahul signing off. Thanks a lot for joining us.